Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently taking these probes on over to Eve, but I did forget to put a heat shield on them, I'm pretty sure. So, we'll see how they end up surviving. We're gonna have to be real careful with this entry. Like, just barely kissing the atmosphere is what we're gonna have to go for. Because, they're gonna burn up if we don't. Definitely going to need a re-entry burn, or not really a re-entry burn, but definitely going to need an entry burn, and we're going to have to try to enter as non-energetically as possible. It's going to be interesting, to be sure, and we'll see how it ends up going. For now, of course, we are time warping over. We got to get this into position here, and we want to burn this for only 25 seconds. Fascinating. So this is going to be a 25-second burn, and we're going to want to burn this at T-minus 12.5 seconds. We have warped ahead about a year, to be clear, but that is not actually an issue. So we will position here, and we will burn this in just a moment. Moving towards 12.5 seconds here. And we burn now. Wonderful. This is a very, very powerful rocket. There's no doubt about that. We've got lots of Delta V. Like, a whole lot of Delta V. So we'll just finish up this burn and take a quick look at our final orbit, which will look something along the lines of this. We overshot. This is a very, very powerful engine in this for these maneuvers. So we're just going to flip over here and try to correct this a little bit. Going to physics warp our turn. And we will just get on in here. Excellent. And we'll just burn this right on back. Another 80 meters per second to go here. And something along the lines of this should do. Okay, let's just bring that on in. That is inside the atmosphere. So, we are of course going to need to flip over to retrograde here and push that out just a teeny tiny amount. It doesn't need to come out far. Our inclination is awkward, we can fix that. So we will position here, and... oh man, okay, that's good enough. That's good enough for now. It's very, very sensitive. In fact, you know what we could do? We could thrust limit this down to like 5%. And then flip back to prograde. And see about just a very, very minute change, because this is very overpowered for what we're trying to do here. So we thrust limited on down, and let's see how good we can get this. Now our inclination is going to need to change if we want to come in equatorial, and I kind of do. So we are going to see... yeah, that's much better. There. We'll let that be. So at this periapsis, we will go ahead and do a circularization burn. About like so. Now, we are not going to need to be thrust limited for that burn. So we'll do something a bit more like that. A 6-minute burn? Oh, that's a very low thrust to weight. Okay, fair enough. Well, we're definitely going to want to physics warp that. There's no doubt about that one. As soon as we're out of this, we're going to want to be at the maneuver node. And of course, that does mean that this is going to be quite the inclination change burn. For sure. But we'll just bring this on in. And there's our time warp complete. We're going to want to start this burn at about T-minus 3 minutes and 3 seconds. So we'll get our burn finished up here, or rather our turn, and we will begin our burn here in about 10 seconds. Wonderful. And let's go. Breaking burn over Eve. And yeah, this is a very tiny little engine, but it's a very efficient little engine. Okay, let's go ahead and physics warp this burn, because this is going to take a while. There's no doubt about that one. So we're just holding this position for now as we physics warp the burn. It's still going to be about another minute of burn time. In fact, a little over, like a minute and 15 seconds of burn time in physics warp. So, going to be a little bit. However, we are at this point officially in orbit, and that's wonderful. And we're just bringing that right on down. Basically on full-on retrograde right now. That is wonderful. Passing retrograde as we're passing apoapsis, or rather periapsis. That is to be expected. And we're just continuing to bring this on down. But as I said, we want to make sure that we are entering as non-energetically as possible. And in fact, periapsis is still approaching here. Okay. So we'll do as much of an inclination change as we can to get us equatorial. And we'll just probably use KER for that. But let's go ahead and stop this physics warp in a couple of seconds here, once we're probably around 15 seconds away from the end of the burn. Okay, there we go. And let's just finish this on off. Wonderful. It's looking pretty good here. 20 more meters per second. We did burn most of our tank here. We'll call that good. Okay. As far as our inclination, I think right around here, I'll add a maneuver for timing. And we'll just... No, not here at all. What am I doing? The ascending node should be basically at the periapsis. Yeah? Yeah. That's the ascending node. Fantastic. So I'll just bring that down to like there. I'm not actually going to utilize this for our burn. We are going to be... We don't have KER. We're going to be checking our inclination in here then. Excellent. So we're expecting this to be about a 33.5 second burn. So we will go ahead and move towards that. T-minus 33.5, rather. And we're just going to change our inclination here. Wonderful. Now, how much is this going to actually take in terms of delta V? Well, enough. We've got enough here. For sure. Should be fine. And I just want to sit on the... No, on the anti-normal node. Not on the... There we go. Okay, let's continue that burn. I don't care about this maneuver. I was using it only for timing. And for determining whether we were normal or anti-normal. But that's neither here nor there. So we're just going to burn off as much inclination as we can here. And we'll see how much inclination that is actually. We're down to about 4.5 degrees, and I'm going to physics warp this. 3 degrees. Okay. We've lost efficiency. It should be probably around here at this point. So we will go ahead and warp to that maneuver. Let's see if that's good. Other way. There we go. Much better. We'll physics warp this. And we are losing efficiency again. Okay. And let's just see. I mean, we're only 1 degree off in our inclination now. I think this is good enough. I think that's good enough. We have 232 meters per second left if we want to make alterations to our orbit. And actually, we do. I want to, at this periapsis, I want to burn a little bit, not necessarily retrograde, but more, I want to burn it radial. Or anti-radial? Yeah. I want to burn this way. No, that's not what I want to do at all. That's not what I want to do at all. I want to burn retrograde, but we got to make sure that we don't dip into the atmosphere here. That's the most important thing. So, about like that. So we'll flip over to that node. We're going to need to burn this pretty precisely to make sure that we don't. We dip into the atmosphere and this mission is doomed. There ain't no coming back from that one. Okay, so we will burn this at T-minus 2.5 seconds. We'll go ahead and warp towards that. Okay, and we'll burn this right about now. Too much. We're going to flip over to prograde. Perfection. Just outside of the atmosphere by 71 meters. Perfect. So this is about as non-energetic as we're going to get on Eve. Each of these, I believe, has 700 delta V. So we're going to be able to do a re-entry burn. We're going to be able to just dip into the atmosphere. Let's go ahead and do a single one of these, but maybe wait until we're about here. So we're going to warp over. Man, this feels sketchy being this close to the atmosphere. Oh, that's very, very close. But it's all good. So we're going to flip retrograde. I want to be pointing retrograde here. And the question is, how much is this going to move our orbit? By decoupling this guy. Okay, we're good. So we've now got this, which has 705 meters per second. And we are, of course, going to burn... Actually, we don't need to burn at all here. We are entering the atmosphere. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I suspect this is not going to be sufficient aerobraking to enter on a single pass. Let's trial doing this, if I can get this engine to fire. There we go. Let's trial doing this at something like 75 kilometers. At 73. Okay. Let's see how that goes. Hello, sun. This is going to be very, very interesting. So once we start seeing some level of heating effects, of course, we're going to attempt to do a re-entry burn. And we're just going to see how this goes. This battery bank is only at 180, which is not necessarily the best, but it should be enough to get us to the ground. We're going to be entering the atmosphere momentarily. Oh yeah, the first suborbital spaceflight above Eve, and the first atmospheric flight above Eve as well. Talk about coming in hot. Indeed, we have no heat shield, so it's going to be real interesting. You can see here, we are already losing attitude. That's a good sign. That's a real good sign. Okay. Should be interesting. How is our periapsis coming down? Yeah, it is coming down a little. This thing has gimbaling on it, right? No. No, it does not. Okay. This is going to be interesting. That said, entering a tumble might not necessarily be the worst thing if we can bleed off enough speed. So in fact, we should be bleeding off as much speed as is possible to bleed right now. Yeah, we are definitely tumbling. We have basically very little control here. We have managed to bleed off a decent chunk of speed. Now, to be clear, I would not be shocked if all of these burn up in the atmosphere. This is deployable? Kind of hilarious if true. So it looks like we're going to be coming in parachute first. I'm going to turn the SAS off, and we'll just accept our fate. Okay. Lesson learned. We can definitely come in a little bit more energetically. I would absolutely love to actually see this parachute deploy right now. Unfortunately, I don't think that we can deploy the parachute at this juncture, even though it does say we can. We could quick save this and see what happens. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to disarm it. Move it into a new stage here. Yeah, we're definitely tumbling. So, wait. We bounced? We bounced out. I'm actually shocked about that. Let's flip back to retrograde then. That's not necessarily the worst thing. We have electric charge. I'm going to physics warp as we head back to retrograde. We're having a very hard time controlling this right now. Okay, so a few lessons learned on this guy. That's fine. Lesson 1, we probably want a heat shield on this. Lesson 2, it would be fairly helpful if we had a little bit more in terms of our reaction wheel. That would definitely be good. Okay. So we'll enter Atmo here. SAS off. We'll accept our fate. We're going to be pointing prograde, it looks like. This thing is almost certainly going to burn up at this point. This re-entry was definitely a little awkward. There's no doubt about that one. No doubt at all. And down we go. I'm just going to continue physics warping here until we start seeing some actual effects here. Okay. See that heating? Yeah. That likely means that this is going to burn up. We already knew that. This is not shocking. We're accelerating right now, which isn't necessarily great. I'm trying to use the parachute as a heat shield, but it's going to burn off. The parachute isn't a great heat shield. Well, we'll see. I don't think this is going to succeed. I'm pretty sure this is a failure. Indeed. There it goes. Kaboom. Wonderful. Okay, so we are going to head on back to the probe launcher. We can't switch vessels while in Atmo. Yep, this is just going to burn up. It's just going to burn up. No way around that. Well, you going to blow up? There it goes. Finally. Okay, so we'll head to the space station, or rather to the space center. And we're going to try this again. I mean, How are we doing on our cash? That's my major concern right now. Actually, we're doing pretty well. Okay. Okay. Reasonable. Reasonable. So, we definitely made some errors, right, on our probes. There's no doubt about that. I was under the impression that there was a just had an idea. I was under the impression that there was a heat shield on these. Anyway, let's go ahead and open up our probe launcher. That's this guy here. And I want to remove all of these guys. There's a double decoupler here that I didn't notice, that I noticed when I was launching this. And I have a couple of ideas. First off, we're definitely going to want to put a heat shield here. This would be a heat shield like that. This is, of course, going to need a decoupler. So we'll put in a decoupler, say... We need just a little decoupler, TD06, like that. We'll put that in there, and then we'll do that. We're going to need a better SAS on this. So we'll do a small inline reaction wheel, like that. And then, what do we need? Well, we need... At this point, what I'm actually thinking about is what if we put some air brakes on these? Those are pretty huge. They're definitely bigger than I thought. They're really, really big. I mean, they'd slow us down. There's no doubt about that. I guess they kind of fit. Okay, so let's do a couple of things here. First, I'm noticing we're going to have a hard time finding this decoupler. That said, we could deploy them, and, are they physics-less? Well, they can't be, right? So if we were to do that, and not deploy all of these air brakes... That's so awkward looking. Let's save that, and let's just put that on the pad and see what happens. That's going to be real interesting, to be sure. Okay, so with this on the pad, we don't have any issues right now. We deploy the air brakes. It does look like they're physics-less. They only interact with the atmosphere for drag. I mean, they'd be great for re-entry, for sure. Okay. It seems like that works. And to that end, what I'm going to do here is head back over, and we're going to try one more re-entry with the existing one, but realistically, I can't believe that I forgot to put in the heat shield. The thing is never going to survive re-entry, I don't think, without the heat shield. I mean, we could turn on ignore max temperature, but that's absolutely cheating. So we're not going to do that. Let's go ahead and turn retrograde. Otherwise, this system seems to work well. It's the probes that don't work, right? We'll just decouple that, and we'll switch on over to this guy. And we'll bring in this periapsis in a little bit. We'll just warp to, like, here. Excellent. Time warp stopped. Oh, we're in Atmo. Okay, that's spicy. Spicy indeed. And that, of course, means that we don't have any authority here. Do we actually have any gimbaling in this? Does the Octo 2 have a reaction wheel? I feel like it doesn't. which pretty much means this is never going to work. Now, our upgraded version will work. So let's just hop back to the Space Center, and let's get our upgraded version out there. I can't believe I did that poorly on the probe. That is entirely my fault, but we have a substantially upgraded version of the probes now. So let's go to the tracking station, and I'm just going to clean some house here. It is, however, about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we are going to bring up our upgraded version of our probes to Eve. That is definitely going to be a useful thing. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.